Hello, guys. Well, do you know the Avengers? Who do you like? Captain America or Iron Man? For me, I choose Iron Man. Dude, what's wrong with you? You know what, bro? I had enough. You know what? I'm gonna grab the camera and explain to me why did you throw that piece of paper. Yo, this was just payback. You know what you've done from my last report? Well, you know, man, this is, you know that Steve Rogers or Captain America is better than Iron Man. You see? Yeah, I know you like Iron Man. Sorry about that. We just got a short argument about who's the best hero. So, Tony Stark complies with the Sokovia Accords. Why so? It would constrain superheroes from their superhero work. Well, Tony Stark sees that why the political winds are blowing after some costly collateral damage in New York, DC, Sokovia, and Lagos, and thinks that agreeing when when would do better for later in the future. Well, Steve Rogers, on the other hand, rejects being the puppets of a remote international regime. He worries that the UN could control the Avengers to serve its own political agenda and not do the right thing. Steve Rogers demonstrates much better judgment than Tony Stark. The very reason uh, he becomes Captain America is that Dr. Erskine recognizes Steve Rogers' basic decency as a person and knows that once enhanced, he would be a good guy, not not a bad guy. Rogers currently uh, correctly, excuse me, sniffs out the problems with Shield's plan of floating helicarriers, and he discovered that Shield is a undercover for Hydra. Well, their plan is to use a fleet of helicarriers for monitoring homeland security. Well, for the world, for the world, yeah, technically for the world. Stark, on the other hand, can't make up his mind, and his power, one moment he's bragging about successfully privatized world peace, and next he's off drinking at a closer bar. Well, his idea of creating Ultron for world peace or world peace is turns out to be a really bad idea. Well, everyone is concerned, so yeah, good for him. Far more than Steve Rogers. Stark seems to be traumatized by his past. Could be because of his past mistakes and errors. It turns out it turns into his judgment. So yeah.
The Sokovia Accords is a framework for the registration and development of enhanced individuals by the collective governments of the world. It demands accountability and oversight for the Avengers due to the collateral damage which has caused civilian deaths and great financial costs. As we can observe in the clips that were presented, Tony Stark was in favor of the Accords while Steve Rogers is not. The contractarian ethical framework claims that the norms we accept as good or proper are mere results of social compromise that is ultimately driven by self-interest of the involved parties. So Tony Stark wanted to sign the accord since he felt that they should be accountable for their actions and the collateral damages that the team has caused. He acknowledged that their habits, which is doing whatever they wanted, is extremely dangerous and could put a lot of lives in danger. In contrast to Tony, Steve did not want to sign the accord since he said that they would no longer be in control of their actions. He stated that whenever they do missions, they would have no choice but to follow because of the accords, even if it would be against their will. Steve was also pointing out that the people who will be in control of them will not always decide for the sake of humanity but for their own agendas. Both of them are thinking about saving lives of millions of people, but by analyzing their actions, Tony Stark is a more contractarian compared to Steve Rogers. He wanted to agree to the accords for them to be held accountable for whatever the consequences of their actions are, but at the same time for the sake of their group's freedom. The framework of the contractarians is basically giving up a portion of your freedom for the benefits of cooperative living, which is what Tony Stark did.
Tony Stark values peace and security of the people in exchange for his liberty and privacy of being a superhero. Tony Stark chose the safeness and greater good of the people rather than his freedom. He foresees that signing the Sokovia Accords will help the public to feel secure about their superpowers and it will create the best possible outcome. On the other hand, Steve Rogers values the liberty of them being superheroes in exchange for their freedom. He thinks that the government controls them too much. So Captain America's belief is very different from Iron Man because his actions rely on what is right, while Iron Man depends on what is best for everyone.
In line with the contractarian framework, Tony Stark is in favor of the decision of Sokovia Accords because he values the consequences from their mistake during the Age of Ultron, wherein they are responsible for the destruction of the country Sokovia, which endangered many lives of people during their battle with Ultron. With this, it led them to be under the government in order to be monitored by the official and to have control over their superpowers. Tony Stark is in favor of the rules and law abided by the government. He accepts the following consequences of their action, while on the other hand, Steve Rogers acts based on his self-interest, wherein he doesn't want to be controlled by anyone because he thinks it will be taken for granted.
Tony Stark is a rational and logical person to begin with. He analyzes and critiques situations in a way that he can achieve what's best for him and him only. This in turn makes him a somewhat selfish person if his ideals and goals aren't aligned to the right side. The Avengers now face a treaty where the United Nations have a set rule where they will be limited with their actions in regards to situations where mankind alone cannot handle. With the previous instances of severe loss on not only their side but humanity's side as well, Tony decides to agree to the proposed plan to limit their actions because he assessed that their loss and for the upcoming future battles, this proposal is a much better way to lessen the casualties on this side.
As for Steve Rogers' decision in Sokovia Accords, the idea of contractarian framework would help for Steve Rogers to accept this agreement because it allows him to be able to recognize the importance of the government in their missions through having their rights and benefits from the government and with their contract agreement. Both sides have their own interests with the said contract, and from that, it would certainly be morally accepted for all of the members of the Avengers. In short, it allows the Avengers and the government to be fair with each other through having both interests agreed upon with each other.
So, Steve Rogers, being the person who sees himself to have a moral responsibility towards the people who's in need of saving, disagreed to the government's proposal because he believes that when the Avengers submits to the Sokovia Accords, they are giving the government complete authority and absolute power over the Avengers and might use them for political or personal agendas and not for doing the right things. And because Steve knows that they are the ones who have the capability to keep the peace and order in the society, he followed his own judgment, even though it means war between the Avengers.
Given that Steve Rogers firmly believes that systems and loyalty will protect us, and that these concepts are worth fighting for, he sees himself as a person who saves people for those who in need. However, in the situation where the government proposed the Sokovia Accords to the Avengers, Steve Rogers found himself disagreeing to the proposal where the Avengers submit themselves to the government, given that he doesn't want the Avengers to be controlled by anyone with agendas.